Hello and good morning to Professor Geetam Tiwari, one of India's best-known transportation experts. She's done work across the world in various transportation modes and studying how cities actually adopt what pattern. We at the Infravision Foundation are really fortunate to have her as the lead on a study she's done on the most appropriate public transport for every city, and really why metro is not the only solution. Professor Tiwari, hello and welcome. And really, I'd like to start off by asking you right away on how you think Delhi, where we both are, and where the Infravision Foundation is situated, the NCR region, how does it stack up as one of the greatest metropolises in the world in terms of ease of movement?
Yes. So Delhi, being the capital city, has been fortunate enough to have several options for transport. And right from 60s onwards, there have been a lot of investment. Early 60s, a formal bus system was introduced. By late 60s, we started talking about metro. And finally, in early 2003, 97 actually, the first line started working. And today we have about 390 kilometers of metro. We also, and along with that, we already have about 600 bus routes. At one point, we had almost 8,000 buses running on the city roads. We are trying hard. The current government is trying hard to bring back those numbers again. Along with that, we of course have all the other private modes like cars, motorized two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and at some point, to serve some travel demand in the outskirts of the city, Gramin Seva or smaller buses were introduced. Now the question is, after having so many modes of transport, I would say it is in a good situation in terms of mobility. If
Right.
I have, as a commuter, I have choice to use the mode that I want to use. For example, I want to step out and I only have to go short distance. For short distance, walking is great. I can just walk to the market. Or even for a shorter distance, I can, about 4 or 5 kilometers, I should be able to use safely a bicycle. These are the options which we have not been able to ensure safely. We do have people walking and using bicycles, but they're exposed to very hostile conditions. The other disturbing trend is that even after investing so much in public transport, for example, metro and bus systems, unfortunately, the overall number of trips on public transport has been reducing. So today, at one point, we had about almost 60% motorized trips on buses. And today with, much wider road network system, we are left with only 18 to 20% of trips on buses. And even metro, after about, nearly 400 kilometers, we have hardly 12 to 15% trips on metro. So I think we really have to do this introspection that what is it that we are not able to provide, number one, all reasonable options to people, especially about walking and bicycling, which have many other benefits, health benefits also, and also public transport. Today you talk about climate change, we talk about air pollution, we talk about sustainable development goals. They all link to somehow getting higher share of public transport. We invested in compressed natural gas buses to deal with the air pollution problem. Then now we are also going ahead with electric buses. These are all great technologies and clean technologies. But the question is, what kind of system we need to design so that we are able to attract, number one, retain people who are using current public transport systems, but in future, as our incomes are increasing, and as access to car and car ownership is increasing, we can still make our public transport so attractive that people prefer to use that, especially in peak hours, as instead of choosing, a private mode of transport like cars or two-wheelers. So I think that is the main challenge that cities like Delhi, and I guess this is applicable to many other Indian cities also. Mumbai is in the same state.
Exactly.
Chennai is not very
Right.
different. Yeah. So we really have to address this issue.
Yeah, and I think that ties in with a larger sort of mindset that we have of living in gated communities and living in bubbles. We want to privatize everything, and our investment as a middle class, perhaps, and as a society in anything that is public funded, whether it's government schools or government universities, is declining. More and more, I think we're going into this privatized mode. So even transport becomes, a private asset rather than a public asset, which we share without hierarchy with everyone. For instance, in Singapore, or perhaps even in London, it doesn't really matter. You can be a government minister and still, take the metro to work, and you can be an office worker and do the same. So it is also a question of mindset, perhaps, isn't it?
Maybe, definitely, because as far as the private modes of transport are concerned, the manufacturers make cars and they know that there is a demand because it is for individuals. On the other hand, you think about this way, that you can own a car, but who provides the infrastructure to use the car? If every day when I take out my car and it becomes more expensive to use the car, or I don't have proper parking, or parking costs me a lot of money, then that is going to influence my decision. So yes, and these are the strategies that many high-income countries have adopted now, including Singapore and London that you mentioned. That in peak hour, it is just much more inconvenient and expensive to use your private car.
Congestion tax,
Absolutely, congestion tax, limited parking, expensive paid parking. So the question is that along with that, I think those measures are we should be able to administer as long as we are able to provide good options to people. And what are the good options? You look at in all these other countries or cities, very reliable, good quality public transport. And remember that public transport is not about a single technology. It's a whole system we have to create around it. So for example, if I have to use a bus, I have to walk to a bus stop. The bus stop should be comfortable for me while I'm waiting and safe from crime. And then when the bus arrives, it should be reliable. I know that in next 5 minutes, I'm going to get my bus. There is no uncertainty that I'm going to wait for a long time. So how does one ensure these things? This is all government commitment. The way we operate a public transport system, the way we regulate a public transport system, the way we do the infrastructure design in terms of location of bus stop, good quality, safe pedestrian paths, this is all government's responsibility. So I think it's important, especially because now 21st century is very different from last century. We understand the criticality of climate change compulsions. We know how our overall health of citizens is getting adversely affected. So I think sooner or later we can't avoid it. The government will have to make this commitment that eventually our commitment is to provide safe, reliable public transport, and safe infrastructure for bicycle and pedestrian is very much part of it. So the main challenge now is what you talked about, mentality. I think it is definitely policymakers and people responsible for providing these systems. That understanding has to come from there and commitment. And it is true that right now we always have difficulty if we try to provide an intervention which is going to have an adverse impact on cars. Even though car users are in minority, but these are very vocal and powerful minority. So we have to find different ways of dealing with it, and eventually, in a phased manner, making plans that, okay, from 5 years from now, we will make the whole city slowly pedestrian and bicycle friendly. It may have some adverse effects on certain sections for cars, but we have to somehow convince our citizens that this is the way forward. This is the only way we can ensure health to our citizens and better health to the planet. So I think both things become very important.
Professor Tiwari, before we go into details of the urban transportation report, I also want to discuss the idea of the street in India. It's not just for pedestrians, it's for business, it's for homes. I mean, so many of our citizens unfortunately live on the street. I mean, our street is not just for people to walk on. It's a whole different gamut. You want to discuss that?
Sure, little bit. So yes, in cities, we always understand the hierarchy of roads, and especially the roads which come very close to where people are living is to be treated as street.
Right.
Now, there's a difference between understanding road and street, because when we talk about roads, it's very much meant the main function is mobility. Whereas when you start talking about smaller city streets, collector roads, little residential streets closer to where people are living, yes, this has to be looked at as a common space which is available to all citizens. And older people, children should be allowed to use it for socialization, for walking safely without the fear of being hit by any other vehicle, etc. So absolutely, the street, the smaller streets in urban areas has to be understood differently and has to be designed so that it is serving the needs of younger and older people. And once you ensure that, it becomes safe for everyone. So, and when you look at today in India, we have about almost 60 to 70 small cities. Small cities mean cities with 1 million population. But even last census, we found that there were about 7,000 urban areas. So other than these bigger cities, more than 1 million population, the smaller cities, most of the roads are streets, where we hardly have any, very, very low car ownership. Most people are walking, bicycling, or using two-wheelers. So the whole street design does not have to look like roads. We don't have to, pave it to ensure it for car movement. And I think once this thinking sinks in, it's going to have several, other benefits. Benefits like actually encouraging people to walk safely, use bicycles safely. So that reduces your demand on organized public transport systems. And of course, it's going to have your air pollution benefits, etc. But also, one of the negative impacts that we are finding in India now is, number of people dying in road traffic crashes.
Yes.
It has become a major public health issue. Yes.
Absolutely.
So, by treating roads like streets, which becomes safer for people to walk and bicycle, actually we start addressing the road safety problem also.
Absolutely.
So
this is such a fascinating subject. Yeah,
it's a two-way thing. Our streets are hostile, so people stop walking even for short distances, and especially people who have other options. We have a large population which does not have any options, so they continue to walk. Now, if we improve facilities for walking, bicycling, that not only ensures safety issue, it also addresses your air pollution issue, and it will encourage people to use public transport because your access to public transport improves.
You have come up with an interesting concept of how city planners can actually choose what is the appropriate public transport for a city. Please talk about that. And I find that so interesting and replicable.
Yeah. So I think main thing that we have discussed in this report is that while planning public transport, uh, there are two important aspects. First is it's very important to understand that what is the kind of travel patterns we have in our cities, because that determines what kind of public transport people are going to use. So what I mean by that is that in a city, not we have differentiated travel demand. Some people have to travel only short distances, less than 5 kilometers. Some people, there is a proportion of population which is traveling little longer distance. And then there is small proportion of population which is going to travel longer than 15, 20 kilometers. Now, which public transport will become attractive? Because see, if we just keep designing our roads, using motorized two-wheeler and car is the best option. This is where people will save time and it will be very convenient. But for all other reasons, we know that it is not possible to provide such a system because we have limited road space, and that is why we start facing congestion, and along with lot of other negative externalities, air pollution increases, etc. So what can be done? If people are making short trips, less than 5-6 kilometers, then we find that a system like metro, which is a fixed system, it has exclusive right of way, but you cannot provide a metro line in every single road, close to every person. So you would have to do at least 100 meters to 50 meters walking to reach a metro stop. So if this happens, then for a very short trip, a bus system becomes, in terms of public transport, better than metro in terms of your time, because for metro, you have to go either up or down. It's grade separated. So just the access time is going to be at least minimum 10 to 12 to 15 minutes. And then your short trip will hardly take 5 minutes. So you will not use a metro just to be inside a metro for 5 minutes.
Right.
So by understanding this, the relationship between how much time it takes to access a public transport and versus how much time you're inside a public transport, one can actually very nicely understand what system suits for what kind of transport. So buses are at grade. They are very suitable for trips which are less than 5 kilometers. And these are the majority trips in any city. Buses continue to be attractive for at least up to 8 to 9 kilometers. If the total distance I am traveling is about 8 to 9, buses will have benefits over systems like metro.
Right.
Now for longer trips, metro becomes very attractive because then you are inside the metro, it's comfortable, it's also very reliable and safe. So if you travel longer distances, then you gain time. So the understanding one has is, so first you can decide, city government can decide, public transport has a lot of benefits and I don't care about money, I want to run free metro, free buses.
Right.
So even if we run free metro services, the other important thing for people to use it is time saving.
Yeah.
So for shorter trips, metro will not give us time saving. And this is the reason that even subsidized metro system today in most Indian cities, we find extremely low ridership, less than 15%. Delhi has nearly 400 kilometers of metro, but what the ridership was projected for metro, we have achieved only less than about 47% of that ridership. So this has to do with the kind of trips that city people are making.
Right.
So what's the solution then? I think it is important that in different city sizes, we understand the nature of the demand and then start deciding that we will definitely need to make a good bus system that will cater to your medium-sized trips, less than 8, 9, 10 kilometers. For longer trips, yes, we will need closed systems like metro. It could be LRT depending on the city size. So we should plan for that. But if we are trying to solve the complete city problem, both have to be done. Both are important. And that is the highest benefit we get if we are able to integrate the two systems.
Right.
Integration means that, when I buy a ticket or I have a smart card, it works on both systems. When I get down from a metro, I know that the next bus is going to arrive in 5 minutes and I can catch a connecting bus.
Right.
So, and then again, for buses also, walking and bicycling infrastructure becomes very important.
Right.
So, overall, I think this is how cities should start looking into, depending on the city size, what kind of demand exists. And then we can actually start predicting that if we have a bus system complemented with a good closed system like LRT or metro, or in some small cities, even bus rapid transit system, some corridors where buses have exclusive right of way. We could talk about electric buses. We could talk about trolley buses. So I think cities have to look at this menu of, different technologies that are available and then match the two. What is your demand and what the technology can serve? What kind of demand? Bring these two together. Then after that, next level of question the city authorities can ask, how much subsidy would be required? Because no public transport system can really make money from fare boxes.
Right.
So that's another set of questions that one has to ask. Number one, I'm going to get good ridership. That itself is going to give you lots of benefits. But now city can say, okay, what are the options for me to how to finance the system? How to run a system so that operating costs can be reduced? All those questions in terms of improving efficiency and financial health of the system is another set of questions that cities have to ask. But the most important thing is all benefits and revenue is linked to ridership.
Right.
So therefore, understanding the differentiated travel demand is extremely important.
Right. It seems so simple and clear-headed, but we know that city planners don't always follow logic, isn't it?
I think it is a complex problem in the sense that if we try and understand who is planning for the whole, overall planning for public transport. Today, in all cities in India, you find bus system is being run by a separate entity.
Yeah.
They are the ones who are planning it. Metro or rail systems are another entity.
Right.
And then we have transport department, which is loosely regulating the other modes of transport.
Right.
So we still do not have a mechanism, an institutional mechanism in our cities where, you have one overarching body which is thinking about not just short-term operations, but long-term vision for the public transport.
Right.
And that comes from the vision for the city.
Yes.
By 2030, we want to have 50% or X percentage of people within walking distance of a quality public transport. That public transport is a combination of bus systems and metro or LRT systems.
Right.
We don't have this institutional mechanism where this thinking can be done. Policy planning authority, and with some mandate, then after that, metro operators are being told that this will be your routes and you have to start services like this. Same thing happens to buses.
Right.
That where the bus stops are, where the metro stops are, and how the fares are being set, how the schedule is being set, it should reflect the integration.
Yeah.
So right now we have very, completely in isolation, every system is operating.
Right.
I would say rather ad hoc.
Yeah. Is there a single city in India currently where you see appropriate thinking in action?
Not yet, because we have talked about, this is called UMTA, Urban Mass Transit Authorities, or some, authority which can do this thinking. Bangalore established this authority, but not exactly the way experts had suggested in terms of the mandate for coming up with, integrated plan, budgets
Right.
for that, enough expertise in the system. But if you look at, examples like Singapore or London,
Right.
so I think it's not about finances. It's really about commitment to creating safe mobility and having that vision for cities. And I think this is the time that we haven't lost it completely,
Yeah.
because our cities are still growing.
Yeah.
And by 2030, 2040, we'll double our urban population.
Right.
So this is the time when we start actually intervening and thinking that in next 5 years, we will start establishing such authorities, planning and institutional mechanisms. And then by 2030, we will be able to achieve something. But in a very isolated way, if Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs decides we will continue to fund metros, and then you know what is happening, that metro has low ridership.
Right.
Of course, it's a very attractive system, it's air
Yeah.
conditioned, it's very comfortable. But if our population cannot afford it,
Yeah.
and if we have shorter trips, so ridership is going to be low, then we are seeing, this is already we can see from our examples from our cities, that we are not able to get the benefits that is expected after doing this kind of investment. So I think it's absolutely, in my mind, very, very important to start thinking about institutional mechanisms. And that actually triggers the policy, planning, operation, and design issues.
So wonderful talking to you, Professor Tiwari. I do hope someone out there is listening to this, especially in the ministry. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I urge all of our viewers to read the report, to read the article based on the report, and to come to our website to listen to you as well. Thank you, and we hope to see you soon again.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.